Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast, aka the show where Taylor fills in Michael and all the news he doesn't read for himself. So on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a bunch of the new DC news that came about the internet this week, and some tragic news with some loss of a couple actors that we honestly all loved, and we also want to talk a little bit about the SAG strike that should be ending in the next 48 hours. So fingers crossed on that front. But before we jump into it, as always, our episode is brought to you by Spectra Alchemy over on Etsy. Go ahead, scan that QR code, head over there, check out the digital art related goods, seamless patterns, clip arts, even some t-shirts that were made specifically for the service. So also, should go without saying, today's episode, we are on Halloween. It is officially Halloween time. And guess what? The giveaway ends with this episode. So you've got until midnight Pacific time. Yeah, PST, 12 a.m. PST tonight to enter in this last stretch of the giveaway. So go ahead, watch the episode, wait for the question, and respond in the comments with your answer. And as always, every episode that carried this tag, you can go back to. You get one vote, one entry per episode. So you can't just spam the comments on like one post and do like 25 different responses. You can essentially get one episode per post. So just do it. I don't know why you're not. But on that note, let's get started. And here we are.
Welcome back to another episode of Dad Shirts Explain It All. Taylor, I got my new dad shirt from Costco. Where's your dad shirt from?
Honestly, I think it was Target. I don't know. My wife picked some stuff out for me. She said my work shirts from working at the office were getting a little. I don't know. We joke that maybe I'm just gaining weight, but also the fact that whenever I wash my laundry in hot water, everything just shrinks like crazy. So I don't think I'm gaining weight. I think that the t-shirts that I have were looking more like they would fit my toddler, not me. So I didn't gain that much weight, but I also didn't become like 5T toddler size. So
it's time for you to switch to cold only because
I have been.
Okay.
I wash everything in cold and I dry everything in low temp and twice as long. And it's just whenever my wife or wherever my son decides that he wants to scoot that laundry along, he makes dumb decisions with the buttons.
What do you do with all your good shirts though? Not your work shirts, like your graphic tees. Are they in a separate hamper? Because he can't touch those; he'll ruin them.
He's ruined a couple, but I typically do my laundry separate, and he's the kid where he'll start the laundry on Monday and then not finish it till Friday.
Oh, so get that stank in there.
Yeah, he forgets, and it's always like, "Hey, okay, I'm going to do your laundry for you for the 6 billionth time."
Now, I think that you telling me the news is the most accurate description of the show. That being said, I logged onto Instagram to see what was going on, and it hurts me to know that you have to rage quit for a full day. So is everything okay? The fact that 24 hours later you posted that Henry Cavill is going to be Highlander was like, no duh, he's not going to be Superman. But I want to check in on you. How can I keep you calm? Where's your head at now?
Yeah, so this is about last week. Right before we recorded last week's episode, it was the 1-year anniversary of Henry Cavill announcing his return. And a lot of fans quickly responded with, James Gunn fired him, blah, blah, blah. James Gunn is the devil, blah, blah, blah. But for people who actually were watching the situation, Henry Cavill announced his return as Superman and announced his intention to play Superman for years on the advice of his management, and his management advised him to do so without a contract being signed. It was unfortunately a ploy to get him in the spotlight, to get people to go see Black Adam, because during the time of the studio looking for a head of DC Studios, there were several bids to be head of studio. One of the bids was from $7 Production, people who ran the Black Adam movie and the people who also were Henry Cavill's management. So their bid was, if we announce Henry comes back, people will see Black Adam. Black Adam's a success. we get control of DC. The news blew up on the internet.
Right.
But the movie did not.
Yeah, didn't he fire all of these people? Aren't these the people that no longer represent him?
Yeah, so like 6 weeks later, after this whole fiasco went down, he cut ties with them entirely. And then almost immediately turned around. He got several gigs lined up, including Warhammer 40K at Amazon that's still in the process of working. It's just with the strikes and all, they haven't really moved forward with it. And then Lionsgate took Chad Stahelski's from John Wick. They're doing a Highlander reboot with Connor McLeod being played by Henry Cavill, which is kind of rad. So
he is such a dedicated nerd. Don't judge him by his Adonis physique. He enjoys putting computers together and playing with little tiny toys. I feel like that Warhammer show is going to be the Halo show that everybody wanted. Not necessarily with like a character being, an AI robot, but I just feel like we're going to get really dope dudes in costumes and everyone's going to be like, why didn't you just make that?
Which is going to be funny because like I see when the Halo show was announced, this was like the show that was in development hell forever. And Steven Spielberg was attached to a movie at one point. Neil Blomkamp from District 9 and all that stuff was attached to it. And then eventually Paramount got it rolling. And somehow the way they made it was, let's not watch or play any of the games.
Sure.
Let's look at the covers and make our own characters based on these characters. And that's what we got with Halo. And it was super frustrating because visually it was really fun to watch. But
it looks like Halo
with the story. Everything with the story was a dumpster fire. And it was so frustrating to watch because you're like, just go back to shooting people because that's what I'm ready for. I'm ready to watch that show. But stop with the plot lines that no one cares about.
It almost needs like a Predator movie where the Spartan doesn't talk for an entire movie. We just see him like infiltrating a base and the AI talks to him, but it's just action set pieces. Like the moment he's taken off his helmet and eating Cheerios in space, it's a tough show to get into.
And having awkward sex with his soulmate, aka / alien abductee, kindred spirit or something, whatever that plotline was. It was super weird.
No, that's how you get women to fall in love with you. You forcibly remove them from their family. You then put them in an isolated area where they can't communicate with anybody, and then they fall in love with you.
That's one way to do it. Sure.
That's my love story. Is that not everyone's? Also, it's so funny to know that like of the Witcher world, the thing that Henry Cavill wants to do more of is sword combat, because it's like you kind of need that level of dedication to pull off a Highlander movie. And I feel like we're going to get it.
I'm just really curious how they're going to go that route, because I remember when the first Highlander came out, everyone was like, oh my God, Highlander, this is crazy. And then Highlander 2 was one of the most controversial sequels of all time because they immediately started the movie. They brought back Sean Connery. They brought back everybody. And the whole movie was, by the way, aliens.
Yeah.
And that was like, it was like this weird, like, we're going to fit this movie, not as a sequel, but we're going to fit it in the middle of the backstory of the first one that we didn't tell you. And it's going to be a pseudo prequel.
That's when he's an old man. I go to the opera. Yeah. And he's just pretending. Yeah. There's a great episode of How Did This Get Made, where they talk all about it. There's a director's cut with more information that they didn't put in the dump at the beginning. It's a very weird series. I also feel like the other end of that like fan base is all the people that love the TV show. I feel like the TV show was right, because isn't the third movie Endgame where the TV show characters and the movie characters meet?
I don't even know. I thought that Endgame movie you're referring to was like Highlander 9 or something. Like they actually had a ton of Highlander movies and a multi-season span of a TV show. And it was almost like how Stargate went from like, okay, decent first movie, crazy TV series, all these spin-offs. Like, it's kind of like that kind of a fandom where it's so insane that it's really hard to follow it all. And a cohesive reboot is the only approach to truly move forward.
And I would be fine if they want to maybe treat this. I think that first movie needs to be complete. And I almost wonder if you do a Spider-Verse thing You get the first movie where it sets up the world and the characters, and then we see a part 2 and part 3 that are connected, almost like John Wick.
Ironically, this is being made by the guys who made John Wick, so this is I trust them.
I had no idea. That makes me so happy. Also, I wonder if Keanu Reeves wants to play a bad guy, get his head chopped off. Like, just in one of the movies, just like, get it out of the way quickly.
An old Japanese immigrant child, like something like that, where he's like he was in 47 Ronin. He's like the mother of a Japanese priestess. The dad was an American sailor, and
was just going to bring that up to you. When I was in Costa Rica, so like, there's all of these movie channels like Sony TV and Warner Brothers TV, which has Max content on it, because like HBO is playing HBO stuff, but then there was also like, they played 47 Ronin, and I was like, oh, okay. And then Warner Brothers is playing Dragon Ball Z in Spanish, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what they're saying. I don't need to. 47 Ronin is a crazy movie. It's crazy out there.
So I remember watching it for the first time and was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this movie. It looks ridiculous. And then when I finished it, I'm like, do I like this movie a lot? Like, it was one of those, like, it was so weird, but it also had so many good things about it that I'm like, there's so much that I love here. But maybe it was just stylistically, it was a gorgeous movie. It had some amazing set pieces. It felt maybe a little rushed. And I think that was my issue, is that it should have been longer.
And it has a great Japanese cast. The fact that they did that movie in English, it's like, you wasted all of those people's talents. Like, just do all of those people. I mean, literally, that one guy plays Scorpion in Mortal Kombat, right? Like, wasn't he the same character? He's revenging the death of his clan. Yeah.
That's him, and also in The Wolverine. That was him also in The Last Samurai. That was him. Like, in every movie he's in, he plays that character, and he's just so damn good at it.
He did a great job playing that character. We talked to that wonderful stunt
character again in John Wick 4. Like,
well, who was the character he played on the train? He was the bad heavy in the train movie.
Oh my god, the
with Deadpool.
It was it the Bullet Train, or what is it? Bullet Train? Was that the name of the movie?
It might be. It's got Brad Pitt in it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I loved that movie, and he played like the elder dad who was betrayed by the clan or whatever, and they thought he was dead, but he's still alive, and he was just so cool.
So you throw your phone across the room. You say, Instagram's dead to me. You go over and boot up your PS5. Taylor, have you completed any more story in Spider-Man 2?
Okay, so for people who have played the story, I'm at Coney Island, which is maybe an hour into the game, but I'm also level 25, and I can fast travel to the entire map. So I've been doing everything but the story.
It's so funny. I feel like you've been playing Spider-Man 2 our entire friendship, because Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 was you just so much, you know what I mean? There was always those good Spider-Man games. Every couple of years, there was that Spider-Man game for the GameCube. I feel like there's always been a relevant Spider-Man game. So I'm happy to know that you're 40 hours into a 200-hour game.
No, it's like I'm 40 hours into a 13-hour game, and I'm just doing everything. Like, that's what it is.
Do you think you'll 100% it?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, at the rate I'm going, it's like the moment a new thing unlocks, we're like, oh, go do this little side quest. I'm just doing that side quest. So I think at this point, the only trophies that I won't have 100%ed are the random ones that you have to like go explore the area and find this random thing. And then I'll just do those after. Like, I'll kind of like when I played Ghost of Tsushima, where I platinumed the game in my first playthrough, where I just did everything as I was doing each story beat, and then I just platinumed the game. That might be the case for this one. By the time the credits roll, either I will get the platinum or I'll have 2 random trophies to go find that are like, take a picture of this. And I'm like, found it.
Right. It's so funny because there is so much news that you have presented the audience. We'll get to your talking points. Something I wanted to send you this morning and we haven't touched on, is Constantine 2 going to happen? It feels
That's actually one of the points.
It feels like all of the stars are aligning. Keanu's open. This director wants to do an R-rated movie. So where are we in that process?
So as of last night, Constantine 2 story has been hashed out, but it hasn't been written yet. So they already have an outline of what they're going to do. It's going to be R-rated. It's going to be a natural successive follow-up to the 2005 film, which makes me really old because that was 18 years ago. Between Constantine 1 and Constantine 2, he could have an adult sidekick that was not born in the first movie.
With Rachel Weisz, it would be Rachel Weisz's baby because that's who he was hooking up with in that movie.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be an angel baby, could be a Gabriel baby.
I want them to bring Chaz back because that was also one thing that when we saw that movie originally, we didn't know there was a post-credit scene, and I didn't know about it till years later. There's a post-credit scene. For spoilers on an 18-year-old movie.
Sure, people need to know.
Shia LaBeouf's character dies in the movie, and at the end of the movie, he comes back as a guardian angel to help out John. And that's the post-credit scene, is him showing up at his grave with angel wings and glowing yellow eyes.
I had no idea. That's a completely different movie. That's a completely different
It changes the context of that scene. Yeah.
It does change the context.
He's back, and he's with it. Okay.
That was in that couple of years' time where Shia LaBeouf played sidekick, main character. He was in iRobot. He was in Constantine. Then he did like Eagle Eye into Transformers, and then he's a main guy.
No, it was Holes, Constantine, Eagle Eye, and Transformers, and then he started becoming the leading man. Was Transformers?
Yeah, because he is the main character in Holes, but the other kid in him, it's like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy was the Danny Glover to his Mel Gibson. Like they were like, who's the main character of Lethal Weapon? It could be argued. Yeah,
Holes has got a great cast. Holes could. I mean, that's a making of an Avatar movie right there. That's most of the cast of an Avatar movie.
Ironically, though, I think about it now, like, new topic. Anyway, so Constantine.
What do you mean? What do you think? You think about Holes? You think about the lizards and the onions? What are you thinking about?
No, it was honestly, it was a great movie. It was one of those just really fun, ridiculous movies. I think Harry Winkler was in it. It was really fun.
It's not Henry Winkler, isn't it? I know the guy from Oh Brother Where Art Thou was in it, but it's also got Henry Winkler, as the curse.
Yeah, as like the grandpa.
Yeah.
But no, so Constantine 2 is moving forward as long as the script is finished. But from my understanding, Keanu Reeves and Lawrence oh my god, I just forgot his last name. Lawrence Francis, I think they worked out a deal with Warner Brothers to give them creative control over the project, and they basically are saying we own this cinematic Constantine world, which is no doubt going to become an Elseworlds project within that niche, but it's going to be very much like Matt Reeves' Batman, where it's like, here's a corner, Matt Reeves owns complete total control over that corner, but
there's enough Bible stuff in Constantine that we don't need to lump it onto Superman. That being said, I feel like I've seen the character of Constantine so fleshed out in the DC animated universe. He's like
the TV show.
Well, no, I feel like I've seen like 3 movies where Constantine is a character almost like Doctor Strange now. He's kind of become like a magic guy with trinkets and stuff like that.
But ironically, though, this is how I know you haven't watched the TV show. Those movies are connected to the TV show.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are. They use the same actor and everything. They're meant to be a continuation of that show.
Oh, well, now I got to watch that show. I like Constantine. It's funny that we're getting Constantine before the fabled Spawn movie follow-up. I feel like we've been talking about Spawn since 1998. Like, when are we going to get another one of those?
So Blumhouse picked up Spawn from Todd McFarlane, and they're aiming to make it their own horror superhero film. So that's actually moving forward finally, because a studio, an actual major production arm, is grabbed onto it. So
it's such
Spawn's
a huge
moving forward.
Yeah, and it's such a huge story. They really need to break down what Spawn story do you want to tell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where are we building to? Because that world is so big. If they just do like a Saw movie where Spawn is torturing people, that's fine, but that's not going to be able to stand on its feet.
It's not. And that's the tricky part, was because I sat down and watched the old Spawn movie with my son, and despite the fact that the special effects are just janky and ridiculous,
sure,
if they took that one film and 1-to-1 remade it, it'd be a solid film nowadays. I mean, except for the fact that like this private military company is like in bed with the White House, and it was like really like, okay, what? But aside from all that stuff,
Sure.
the movie's pretty solid. So
Well, okay. Those are the rumors that were on my head. And then I also am trying to convince my wife to play Mario Wonder with me. I'm like, you don't even have to, you just have to jump. You don't have to worry about enemies. It'll be fine. I'm pretty sure I'm going to convince her to play it with me. There was some other big rumblings that are happening right now. Now, are these coming out because writer strike is over? So projects are obviously happening, but actor strike, I feel like I'm hearing conflicting things because you're saying within 48 hours, and I feel like what I read last week was the moment they added the money add-on for the subscription side, everything blew up.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm saying within 48 hours we should know something is because they said, essentially, by November 1st, the studio is prepared to say we're stopping all conversations until January 1st. So they basically are like, we're coming to terms or nothing is happening until the new year.
And to put that in perspective for people, if that's what happens, there's no fall TV, whatever Christmas movies that were filmed in the summer, like maybe we get some that were filmed last year, but we're not going to get anything. And it means that this like time frame of when these other things were supposed to happen, everything is probably going to get moved down. Now, I want to know about this, but will this affect movie releases? Like, will the Marvels still come out?
Marvels will still come out because that's due in like a week, and you can't pull a movie of this scale like just on like the eve of its release.
What about Aquaman 2?
Things like Aquaman 2, things like Dune, all that stuff, there's very good chance they might get delayed further. It's tricky, but it's kind of like what happened with COVID, right? I mean, COVID happened, and then studios literally pulled their movies on like the 11th hour. So it's very possible.
They want to keep cinemas open. I don't know how much more of this yo-yoing can happen because, Barbie and Oppenheimer were the two big movies of the year that kind of became event movies. But like, I don't see what that next event is. Taylor Swift movie already came out. The Swifties already saw it.
And I don't understand why that was an event thing. That was like an HBO special concert event that was somehow a movie.
Which I'm fine with. They do those specials, like they'll do like, they'll play Princess Mononoke at a movie theater and you have to know when to get there. Like that's all cool. I like that stuff. I just don't understand where this, like I thought I missed something. Like was I not plugged into the social zeitgeist of Taylor Swift to not understand what's happening?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't.
I guess I wasn't either. I was too happy to see that Dragon Ball trailer.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that Dragon Ball show. That show, everyone's like, I wanted more Super, but I said it a couple weeks ago when they announced it. Dragon Ball Daima is going to be what they're going to connect the final arc for Super in the manga. You already know that's the reason why they didn't announce more Super was because Akira Toriyama does not want to have a repeat of last time where they're trying to write the manga while they're also doing the show.
And put that in perspective, Akira Toriyama is very old at this point. He is trying to finish this probably in a timely fashion so that it doesn't run into what Game of Thrones ran into. I'm sure he would like all of this to stand on its own feet. And I bet they're also debating, do you do Granola and Black Frieza? Do you do these as movies? Or do you do them as movies and then do the show as the more fleshed out version? Yeah, I don't know if they know what they want to do yet.
I think they do because they already did Dragon Ball Superhero as its own movie. And now in the manga, it's like crazy better and way more fleshed out. So I think that's exactly what they're doing is that they realize that these big event movies will bring them a lot of capital so they can then turn around and produce another season. Because that's what they did with the Battle of the Gods. I mean, that movie came out, everyone was like, oh my God. And then we saw it, and then they're like, we have money now. Let's make it a show. And that's where Super came from. So,
well, that bar is going to be high. They can't. I feel like anime right now is so good. Like it's so pretty. It's so good looking. I feel like you can't have a janky show. You got to get a really good studio to put behind it. Even One Piece looks gorgeous now.
I have a hard time watching One Piece from the start because I know where it is currently, and I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, this is so rough right now, but it's going to get better.
It does get better, and the writing really holds that early stuff. Like when I was in Skype and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is when I'm like really into everyone's characters.
But on a different anime note, I heard a really compelling argument the other day that the big 2023 anime event, or just the anime event of this past decade, aka Attack on Titan, is a mecha anime. And I was like, no, it's not. And I looked
Yes,
at it,
it
and I'm like,
is.
no, it's 100% a mecha. And like when I listened to the rationale, you have a young guy who's piloting a giant machine, which is the Titan, and it has socio-political repercussions. You've got all this stuff about how war is evil, the travesty of human nature. And I'm like, this is a Gundam show. Like
And
Attack
they,
on Titan
yeah.
Gundam show wrapped up in a medieval setting.
And instead of people just blowing up in gasoline in space and like pretty little dots, it's horrific, awful, bloody, but it's very close. You know what's so funny is when you say it like that, I wonder if that's why I like it so much, because it is a mech. And also the steam, the Spider-Man things that they use to literally get around is also like a mecha thing.
Yeah. Like it's such a crazy show. And I'm like, I think they just tricked the whole world to love Gundam show.
And you know what's funny is that show has cultural impact when literally they reference that as the conclusion in the new Ninja Turtles movie. How do we take this down? And he's like, oh, let's just do the thing I see in my anime. It's like, oh boy, if we're going to reference that, like what else can these Ninja Turtles do? Which was really fun. I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed that film.
Yeah, I was telling a buddy of mine who didn't really care for it in the first viewing, but I was like, look, watch it as it's its own separate island that is trying to stay as faithful as it can to some aspects, but also reinvent it in others. Just accept that it's different, but it's made by the people who loved the one you love too. And he's like, all right, I'll give it a go. And then that's when he's like, yeah, this was pretty great.
Krang is inside of that lady.
She is.
We haven't even opened the portal to get the rock guys there yet.
You know it's going to get weird, and you know that Shredder's going to be an amazing addition for the sequel, and it's going to be way more than I'm expecting. And there's a TV show that's also going to bridge the gap between 1 and 2 about the Turtles in high school, which is like, okay, let's do this.
Right. It'll just be them using ninja skills to like play dodgeball.
Yeah. And you know it's going to be that.
Oh, if we're going to talk about TV shows, and this only popped up on my radar because I saw the pictures, the Avatar live action show is looking good.
Yeah. I heard some nightmare stories about production, which is unfortunate, but I'm going to keep those to myself because I'm not going to be that person. Anymore.
Are those stories about the yo-yoing because of the strikes and stuff like that, or differences on set?
Yes. That's all I'll say. It's so much, from the writer's room to the production team to special effects to the creative control and the original creators of the Avatar show saying, screw you, Netflix, we're out. Like, there's so much stuff behind the scenes. I really hope this show lands and is more like One Piece than Cowboy Bebop. And it's kind of right on the line there of where it could land.
It's so funny that is the way that we have to talk about these things, because the One Piece feels so accurate where the Cowboy Bebop show feels so divorced from the original material. Why aren't they just copying the cartoon, Taylor? What do you mean that there's differences? Why aren't they just doing and following the storyboards that are provided?
Yeah, just do this. Just do this. Like, not hard. 1-to-1. Just do this.
All right. What were the other big things that came out then? Because if writing is happening and you think that do you think that we find out at the end of tomorrow? When do you think we have news about the SAG stuff?
So all the SAG stuff that's been so far has been basically that the talks are happening. The talks are being progressive. They're not done yet, but they say going into tomorrow, it's very possible they'll reach their date. So it is fully possible that the SAG strike could actually resolve soon. And if it resolves soon, then Hollywood resumes and everything gets better and we'll get content again. If it doesn't, then just expect so much crap to just fall apart.
I mean, there's feels like so many other things have already fallen apart. Like the fact that they're retooling the entire Daredevil show. It's like that now gets pushed back even further because they have to go back to square one with all of that.
Yeah, but did you hear that they actually hired the guy from Moon Knight and Punisher to showrun the show now, which is pretty good. And then they got directors being tapped for the project from the guys who directed Loki. So they're making some good choices on who's. I mean, the best choice they could have made was got the guy who made the Netflix show. But if they're at least getting one guy who made a Netflix show that was a pretty decently received one, at least that's a step in the right direction.
It's so funny that Loki has become the tentpole of good shows for Marvel. Not that I like Loki a lot, but it's interesting that that character and that vehicle within the Marvel universe is going to be the thing that they tie all of the the spokes on the wagon wheel to. Because I thought it was going to be I thought there was going to be another character, but it's like no, I think Loki is going to be the one that brings all of this back together.
It's such a weird thing because like the Loki show was the first time in this current phase of Marvel that people were like, oh, there's a story. I get it now.
Yeah.
And season 2 so far has got 2 episodes left. It's ended on some crazy cliffhanger this last week. And I feel like it doesn't even feel like a season 2 as much as just a continuation of season 1.
I agree with you. Because these other shows, that's like a whole new thing that we go into. It's like, no, you could almost watch all of this back to back to back, and it would feel like one cohesive thing. You would know, because I can see all the toys behind you. Has there been any talks of a live action Gundam show? Because I feel like you could
we talked about this, Michael.
I know, but could you do the modern Gundams? Because I feel like the 360 cockpit would be easier to do in CG.
Well, from my understanding, is that the new project is an original project and it's taking a lot of inspiration from Universal Century. And only the first couple shows of Universal Century had that weird Gundam Wing joystick one. And then as it went further, like even Char's Counterattack with the new Gundam, that white Gundam with all the funnels on its back, it had the circular cockpit that was like fully integrated with the psyche of the pilot. So like I see that they could easily say we can do this and this because it's all canon to what we're taking from. So
it's so funny as we're talking about this, I'm thinking of Pacific Rim, which is a little bit Ava, a little bit Gundam, but not either one. And Apple
it's kind of got the G Gundam show when they're like kung fuing inside the suits.
Yeah. And I know that Apple is getting that Godzilla universe show. Do you think that show's going to get big robots in it soon?
It already had one, right? With Mechagodzilla.
Right, but they haven't put people in it. And there was that great Godzilla movie from 2000, Mechagodzilla versus Godzilla, where he's got the Sub-Zero ice system where they like try to put a pilot inside of him. So I wonder if we could see something like that in that universe.
Maybe, yeah. It'd be fun. Godzilla versus Pacific Rim, the new kaijus. Like, just give me that.
I don't want to hurt the Pacific. If they do more Pacific Rim, they need to elevate it because the fall off between 1 and 2, they're so completely different movies. They feel so different from each other. I want more of the first movie and not so much the second movie.
So I remember when I saw the second movie, and we've talked about this before, but Pacific Rim 2 is one of those movies where 3/4 of the movie is just filler. And then the last like 30 to 45 minutes of that movie, it's like almost exactly like the movie. Someone strapped a rocket to your back and the movie's in overdrive. And that's why I'm like, that whole ending half of that, the whole ending bit of that movie, I wanted that to be the whole movie because it was so fantastic. But getting through all the slug that it took to get to that part was what really made that movie a downer for a lot of people.
Well, I'm not here to make this episode a downer for people. Let's strap a rocket on. What are the stories that have come your way? What are we bringing to the audience this week?
All right, so the big ones is right off the bat. Over the last week, we've had almost all the Twitter scoopers or the X scoopers, whatever.
It's called X, Taylor. We gotta call it X now. It's not Twitter.
It's still Twitter. Like Daniel RPK, My Time to Shine, Can We Get Some Toast? Like all those big anonymous scoopers that don't reveal their real names but are out there scooping. Superman Legacy had an update with that. There was essentially no offers for the Lex Luthor for pre-strike. There were actual offers for other characters, like Jimmy Olsen had an offer, things like that, like things that are the moment the strike is over, all they have to do is say, "Okay, we still want you. Sign the paper." Um, so the big thing is that Gunn is looking for an actor in their 30s, around the same age as Clark Kent's actor, so they can basically like be toe to toe equals. Like this is not going to be the Gene Hackman, Christopher Reeve, where there's like a 20-year age difference, or it's going to be um, BVS, where yes, they were the same age, but one clearly looks older than the other. It's going to be more like Smallville, where they're like they look like they could have grown up together. So that's what they're aiming for, is a Lex Luthor who's a young businessman, but is not quite the Mark Zuckerberg businessman that we got in BVS.
In my Costa Rican hotel room, I watched The Flash again, and that scene where they go through all of the Superman universes, it is a shame that they didn't let the Smallville cast do a cameo and really film it. Really film them in real person. Don't have them be, it elevated that sequence to make that feel real. And it feels a little lost now that they decided, to do, Batman and Robin from the 70s, but not a television show that people really do want to see more about.
Right. And so aside from that, Superman Legacy casting is that essentially that, like, all the deals that were put out there but pre-strike can resume the day the strike ends. But like the big supporting characters, the big villains, have not been cast yet, and no offers were put out there yet. So
I'm sure James Gunn has a short list. I'm sure he's waiting to approach all of his regular heavies. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised. Like, could we see Kurt Russell be Superman's dad? Do you think we would see that?
What, you heard the rumor, right? Like Kurt Russell was legitimately. All right, so some concept art. Some information from concept art came out that Kurt Russell was actually the artist stand-in for Jor-El and all the pre-production artwork that they have for the flashbacks of, not even the flashbacks, of just Superman consulting his dad on things, which they're not retreading the same story of his origin, but there's going to be some stuff where he like goes to the Kent farm and you're going to see him talk to his parents. He's going to go to the fortress. He's going to talk to his other parents. Like stuff like that is going to be part of the story. And they had the big rumor was that they had like a 7-foot tall holographic Jor-El that would be standing above Superman answering his questions. And they had Kurt Russell as the figure in the face. So I kind of love it.
He's got great hair. He's got the hair to look like an alien. And he's into aliens. So that makes it, I feel like he'd be a good final hurrah for him.
Like, I just want to say that the Kurt Russell that we have in the new Godzilla show, seeing that as Jor-El, let me just find a picture for everybody.
I didn't know he was in the new Godzilla show. I haven't even started that show yet.
Michael, he's the main character of the Godzilla show.
That's great. I'm glad he's working. I'm so happy. He popped up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
The new Godzilla show has got one of the coolest things that I've ever seen anyone do, is that they've got Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, playing young Kurt Russell in the flashback sequences, and Kurt Russell's playing present day Kurt Russell. I'm like, oh my god, yes, do it. But
love it. Love it.
Kurt Russell,
looking great.
He's like put some Superman armor on and some robes and stuff, and just that's Jor-El. There we go. Let's do it.
And Kurt Russell is one of those actors that, because there's so much film of him, they can play with his AI. They can do Industrial Light and Magic to kind of, show him throughout the ages if they want to. They can, do a lot there.
Let's do a flashback with Kurt Russell, young Kurt Russell talking to General Zod, and they pull all of his footage from Stargate. Like that's all they do.
Do you think they cast a General Zod, even if we don't see him in the, like, just to see him in passing, to be like, oh, there's the guy that could be a thing eventually?
I'm willing to bet that fans are going to see something that they're not expecting with these movies, and James Gunn is going to do exactly that. He's going to cast a ton of people and have a ton of cameos, and they're all going to be like long investment cameos. Like you'll see a face like, that's a big actor for a background character. Oh my god, he's a huge character, and it's going to be that you're going to see all these random background characters that you're like, oh, I know that face. He's important. And that's going to click for people. Um,
Do you think that there's a short list with Lex Luthor's name on it? Lex Luthor's name. You think there's five names of people that he wants to use?
easily. He's had how many months to think about a short list?
Yeah.
He's probably got a list ready. He doesn't have the offers ready because they can't do anything, but I'm sure he's got a list.
Okay.
And then the other big rumor was that Chris Mundy, the showrunner of Ozark and the writer and producer of Criminal Minds, is essentially gotten the offer to be the showrunner for the Lanterns TV show. And this is the Lanterns TV show where you have Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart essentially on Earth solving like a murder. And it's like it's going to be something where they have to use the tools at their disposal, but they also have to be kind of incognito because there's a bigger issue at play here. So they can't be zipping around like Green Lanterns, but they also need to use their tech and their powers to help figure out what the hell just happened.
The benefit of what Taylor just said is what Marvel has done is treated their TV shows like episodic movies, and the pacing doesn't work. You need somebody with a TV eye that understands the ebbs and flows of a season. And Ozark does that in spades. You're always on the edge of your seat. There's always a new thing about to happen or the consequences. So I could absolutely feel that gritty swamp vibe, that true detective here on Earth where, they got to keep their jean jackets up, but we see them, maybe fight a monster with a green sword or something like that, an alien somewhere. So that's very exciting.
Like they're doing something or like a bar fight's happening and you just slowly see this knife materialize out of green where they're just like, if I need to fight, I'm ready. Like there's something like where there's plenty of CGI, but it's also very tasteful and not ostentatious.
Or somebody, or some biker. I always think of bikers. I'm always like Terminator 2. So a biker gets mad at him and tries to stab him, and the knife breaks. And he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Not today, buddy." And he like throws him down, and we just see the green glow or something, right? Like, oh, he's using his powers, but it's not. He didn't make a dump truck to punch somebody in the face, which is my favorite part of Green Lantern.
Where he like punches like 5 dudes and like clearly kills them.
Green Lantern summons a jet and throws it into people. I love all of that stuff.
Yeah. There's also the big rumor that Hal Jordan and Jon were initially supposed to be the same age, but more likely now that Hal is going to be in his late 30s, early 40s, and Jon will probably be in his early to mid 20s.
Do you think that
he's going to be the veteran and the newbie?
Is that to set up some of the when Hal Jordan turns evil stuff later on? If you have him a little bit, because I mean that storyline is one of the big events in DC, and it's like maybe that's what you build towards in terms of big evils. Have somebody within the group they all have to team up to fight their friend.
Yeah, like have a first part, like have Batman and Hal Jordan be roughly the same age, and have like Superman be the younger, and you see just everything go awry when Hal Jordan turns. And yeah, I'm ready for that. That's a movie that I would love to see. Was that you have essentially, like, if you put it in Avengers context, by Avengers 3, Iron Man is now trying to kill everyone. Like that's what you essentially have.
Yeah. And you do 2 movies. You do a part 3-1 and a part 3-2.
Yeah. Because why not? The other big one, and this is a huge thing for me, but probably I don't know about you, but the Question, the fantastically conspiracy theory Question with his no face.
It popped up, and I couldn't believe what I saw. I was like, "What do you mean this character?"
For the longest time, the Question was a character that was being shopped around for DC Black, for all these other one-off TV shows. They looked at him for HBO Max. They looked at him for all this stuff. Apparently, the project may actually move forward as part of the new DCU, and I love it. Like the Question is such a fun character, but if you're going to set up a Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters kind of a story where you have some big overarching conspiracy monster that's going to essentially be the main villain, why not introduce a conspiracy theorist character that's essentially going to be the one guy who figured it all out and went mad in the process?
And he's a really good character if you think about the spread of shows that they have coming. I could absolutely see him in a Batman universe. I could also see him popping up in the Waller show or the
Sure.
Suicide Squad or Peacemaker. And even if it's the same actor and we see other versions of him, right? Like this is another universe, I think that would be great as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've loved the Question as a character for the longest time, and I would love to see them do it right.
Does he have superpowers or is he just a conspiracy guy with a cool Rorschach mask?
The latter, but he was also trained by like Wildcat and a few other characters to actually be like, really good at hand-to-hand combat. So
great. So that means Wild. So then we're also introducing Wildcat and maybe some of that lineage as well.
Well, I mean, if you're introducing characters like Black Canary and even members of the JSA, Wildcat's kind of a given. He's a founding JSA member. So if you're going to introduce JSA members as part of the Superman universe, Wildcat's already out there, and you know he is.
I wonder if they do JSA first or just go right to Justice League. I could see them going either way. I know that there's like a fun history part if you do JSA, but I feel like so much of that got tainted in the Black Adam stuff. I wonder if they just move away from it now.
Maybe. I think if they retool it enough, they can pull it off. Especially if they call themselves the JSA and not just Justice Society like they did in Black Adam.
Yeah.
Or how did they do it? Did they call themselves the JSA? I can't remember.
I don't know. It's a great question.
But that's the trick, right? I mean, if you do it right, I mean, one of my favorite ways of how they've ever handled the JSA in any sort of live action capacity was how they did it in Smallville, where they basically had this one episode where they revealed that the JSA was operating like 50 years ago. But after these laws got passed to stop vigilantes from doing exactly what the JSA was doing, the government cracked down on newspapers and scrubbed them from the archives. So only people who saw it happen remembered it happening because there's no public record of it anymore. So you could easily argue that these characters did exist, but the reason no one's talking about them is because everyone's grandparents were the only ones who remembered it being a thing. So I thought that was kind of a cool twist. But you could have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, aside from that, then the last one, Daniel RPK dropped this news that that Matt Reeves' Batman universe is getting fleshed out even more, and a solo Scarecrow project is in the mix. Whether it be a movie or a TV show, he said movie, but it could be retooled to even be a miniseries on HBO Max.
Depending on how well this Penguin show does, like I feel like if the Penguin show does well, we're gonna get a Scarecrow show. If the Penguin show doesn't do well, then he will be the B hero of. They'll do him and somebody else in Reeves's third Batman movie.
Right. And this it goes back to a few years ago. For people who were longtime followers of TCN, Ryan Unicombe dropped the news that Robert Pattinson was in final talks. I also confirmed it at the time, and he and I were the only people on the internet who said Pattinson was going to be Batman. But along with him dropping the Pattinson stuff, he also said that there was a short list of characters that were being explored. One of them, because I mean, the way it was described to him and the way I heard it from my people was that when a director and a writer are writing a role, they tend to have actors in mind of who they're writing the characters as, so they can be their mental voice of that character. He had characters for Penguin, Catwoman, a lot of the characters that we ended up getting. One of the characters was Toby Kebbell as Scarecrow, and if that still is what's happening, I'm 100% for it. I would love to see a slightly different take on Scarecrow that's different enough from what we had in the Batman Nolan trilogy, but is also faithful enough to the comics, where he's a professor who's manipulating people with his experiments. Like, let's do that. You don't have to have like a nerdy looking professor. You could have someone just a genius of any capacity pull it off. So
these are the rumblings of projects, right? Like Christmas Carol. These are projects that could be, right? This is the future, but it's not set in stone yet. You keep telling me to watch Gen 5, and I know that Invincible Season 2 is about to drop, which I am over the moon for. Is there anything else out on the horizon that we should be keeping our eyes out for?
The reason I keep telling you to watch Gen V, it's not Gen 5, Gen V, because it's Generation Vought, The reason why you need to watch it is because you cannot understand the next season of The Boys without it. They literally said that this show is part of the main timeline of the show. Like, if once this season ends, it leads into the next season of The Boys, and when the next season of The Boys ends, it leads into the next season of Gen V. You have to watch them. They're going full MCU with it.
I will watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch Invincible season 2. When does that drop?
Soon. I don't know the exact date, but the reviews are already coming out, so probably in the next couple weeks.
Okay, and then what else is on the horizon that I need to add to my queue?
I don't even know anymore. So many things have been messed up by the strike that at this point, if something comes out and I'm like, holy crap, it's out, like, that's how I'm going to find things.
Well, that's how I found Justice League War World.
I haven't watched it yet. Was it good?
I'm 2 stories into it. It reminds me so much of that Constantine movie that was 3 kind of different stories.
So an anthology film.
Yes, but it's a single story. But it feels like the Justice League meets Twilight Zone in the best possible way. I'm enjoying it a lot. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. They do a great job of making Wonder Woman cool. And she usually comes across as cool, but I feel like sometimes they don't know how to write her. They've got a Wild West theme in the first one that she's in, and they do a great job with her.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I have to watch it. If they pulled that off, I'm down for it. Let's do that.
It's good animation. The animation just keeps getting better. That stuff coming out of South Korea, it just looks so good, and it just looks like DC at this point.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. That's exciting. But on that note, let's tend to wrap. I did want to say a couple more things because there was some stuff that I really loved. If you haven't yet, everybody, South Park did one of the greatest things over the weekend.
Taylor, I didn't know. I knew that the special was coming out, but I didn't know what it was about. Because of all of the stuff they talked about, I had to watch it. Oh, boy, is it good. Oh, boy, is South Park coming out swinging.
Like, they went straight after Kathleen Kennedy with knives, and in such a way that that Kathleen Kennedy's going to try to sue these guys.
Yeah, and I also wonder, and I also feel like Kevin Feige also needs to be brought into this conversation because under his watch, Marvel is not what it was 10 years ago. And that's directly, he was supposed to be the guy holding the ship together, and I feel like he needs more support.
And it's funny because, like, you had all these books and stuff come out recently where they basically confirmed that pretty much nothing outside of the core films and Disney Plus is canon. They directly stated that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. not canon. They directly confirmed the Netflix canon. And they did all of this in this basically way that the Disney, how do they say it? It was the Marvel Production Committee, like some committee that was being brought in aside from Kevin Feige that were controlling all these projects, and he just didn't want to acknowledge them. So it's kind of insane. But now it kind of ended all the argument. Daredevil was never canon, and he's going to keep the stuff that he liked when he makes his new story that is canon.
Oh,
simple as that.
Do you think that this changes the trajectory of Star Wars now that she's been so lampooned in this way? Because they basically just kept talking about Indiana Jones. They specifically talk about how all of the writers came back and the South Park writers were so sad that Indiana Jones sucked.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I saw it, was that they had their bone to pick with them about Marvel and Star Wars and everything, but like they took the Indiana Jones stuff personally, and that's why they went straight at that head on. So
yeah, because I feel like all of those arguments could be true about Marvel, but that's not what they attacked. They kind of just attacked, Star Wars stuff, and it makes me sad because I feel like we don't get Star Wars stuff now for a while.
We'll see what happens, but it was honestly very, very funny. If you haven't watched it yet, give it a shot because the Disney diversity thing. What did they call it? The panderium or something like it was this crystal that gave them the ability to pander to any demographic, and it was just their way of saying that they had lost themselves in the monster that they were trusting.
Yeah,
Which is really funny.
the pander stone. It was so funny. And the kids keep
Pander stone,
critiquing
yeah.
about how lazy multiverse writing is. It was like, yeah, that's all the tropes. They did it.
Another big thing, one of my favorite horror movies of recent years is officially getting a sequel called They Follow, and the original writer and director is coming back, and the original lead, the girl Micah Monroe, is coming back. So um, that movie surprised me so much that I was like, I don't like horror movies. I love this movie.
Yeah.
They basically made STDs for demons.
It's so yeah. If you're not aware of It Follows, that's great. It's I hope that doesn't get the full 9-movie horror movie, but there's more to that world to do, and I think that's with a little bit more budget, they can do a lot with that movie.
Yeah, I think they could pull it off very well, because that was there were so many moments in that movie where I was just like, damn, that was really creepy. That was really well done. That I didn't see that coming. Like, and you see the stuff coming, but then at the same time, it really surprises you. Good for them. I'm really excited about that. But on that note, this week's question.
What is it?
Podcast giveaway.
What's the question, Taylor?
The final weeks of December. This is the one. You got like less than 24 hours to enter on this. The final question is, now that we know a possible Scarecrow movie is happening, kind of in the vein of the Joker, should be an obvious one. Which villain or character in general do you want to see in Elseworlds standalone movie? Whether it be Clayface, Mr. Freeze, or even Jimmy Olsen the movie. I don't care what it is. Say what you want to see and why. And let's see if it happens eventually. I mean, this is going to be our Oracle Stone here. Everyone make their guesses of what you want to see, and then we'll revisit this when all these standalone movies happen, and we'll revisit it and see who actually got it right. But
Taylor, I would love to see a standalone film or TV show about Killer Croc, where he gets the name. We see him do like some missions as like a hired thug, and then somewhere on episode 3 or 4, he gets some mutation. He starts turning into a Killer Croc. That's the show I want to see.
That'd be fun. I also want to see like the whole circus angle where he's a freak and ostracized, and he joins the circus, and
that's a good story too. Yeah, that's a really good story.
Sounds a lot of fun. Lots of fun there. But
Taylor and I have now sweated through our dad shirts, so it's time for us to take our dad showers to move on so we can get non-smelly clothes. If you'd like to help pay for those non-smelly clothes, head over to patreon.com/theculturednerd. I never noticed that the Patreon logo looks like an amoeba or something. Like it looks like a little one-celled organism.
Yeah, they changed it recently. I don't know why. It's
got
like
it. Well, we have a bunch of wonderful people that keep us going, throw us change our way. Here's all those wonderful people. Your host has been Taylor Murphy. Me, Michael Santel. I am your co-host. Our logo is by Jose Navarro. Our intro is by Taylor Murphy and the wonderful Jay Stu. If you have those cell phones, click that button right there. Like, comment, subscribe. Answer that question. What Batman villain or character would you like to get the Joker/Penguin treatment? Write that comment in there. Put it in there. Let us know, because there's a lot to do. Taylor, you're muted. No one can hear you.
Not just Batman, any character. I mean, the question is getting his own solo project. Who do you want to see? Yes, let's focus on the Batman villains, because those are the ones that are going to get like the most money behind them, because everyone loves the Batman universe.
But sure. What's so funny is we're talking about it like this. I feel like my other answer is just Green Arrow. Just do Green Arrow well. He is the glue in every other superhero team. Let's just get him into the universe already so he can play.
Let's do him accurately. Not like, I liked the Arrow show, but it was Batman with bow and arrow. Like, that's what that show was.
Right.
So give me the weird social justice warrior Oliver Queen, like with his arrow cave and all that stuff. And he's like, I'm a loner. I don't have a team of people. Like, I want to have that one. But also, on that note, people were asking what the next month's contest is going to be. I haven't decided on everything, but I am looking at a variant cover of The Flash from BVS and Zack Snyder's Justice League variant covers. I've had a few of these, so I figured these would be good giveaways.
You give away the best stuff, Tay. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see all you kids and cats next time.
Bye.
Later.